Hans, it's good to be back.
Yes.
It's been quite a few months since we did our first video, which we're calling The Switch.
Yeah.
So this is the second one, and you were kind enough to let me borrow a camera, which we're going to be reviewing in this video, and I've been able to hold on to it for about 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
Before I shot through 2 rolls of film. And
I was a little bit quicker.
you were first.
I was first, yes.
And to be honest, I also made some videos which we're calling No Expectations.
Yes.
And with regards to your camera of choice for this video, I had very high expectations.
Me too.
And I think we're going to surprise the viewers maybe a little.
Okay. Well,
but before we start, would you like to reveal the camera?
yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. It's the Leica R7 with, which is most important, the Samilux 50mm 1.4. So, if you talk about a high-end camera, this is most probably it. In the days of manual focus, Leica in the day never made autofocus because they were very acute about the meaning that the tolerances in autofocus cameras are way too wide to be exact in focus. So they never went on that path, and they still don't. The M cameras are still manual focus.
Right.
They have a couple of autofocus cameras nowadays, but these are mostly lower end cameras. So this is the last Leica that we can call pretty.
It's a beautiful camera.
It's absolutely gorgeous to look at, and the build quality is without any doubt best I've ever felt.
Mm-hmm.
It's robust, it's massive, it's heavy, certainly including the 50mm 1.4, which makes it double the weight almost.
Right.
And after this they made the R8 and the R9, and I think that those are hideous to look at. Absolutely horrendous looking cameras. But these from the R3 up to the R7 are also in cooperation with Minolta cameras built. So up to 92 this was for sale. And I was working in a photo store from 1990 onwards. And this camera was so expensive that we didn't have it in stock because it was too expensive to have. It was like 5,500 guilders with the 50mm Samilux. So
that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of money, and it's still expensive if you want to buy it nowadays, because with the lens it's like 1,200 euros, and the body will be around 400 now. So it's still 1,600 euros if you have to fork out to buy a thing like this. So,
well, my first impression when you gave me the camera was, wow, this is the first time I'm shooting a Leica, and I could feel the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was, and as I called it, next level.
Yeah, right.
And I'm quite used to manage good cameras. I shoot a lot of Nikon F2. I do have some Leica M cameras, which I have more or less the same feeling in quality-wise and robustness as this camera. But when I touched this camera and when I fixed it, because it was broke, even with the lens, and you press the buttons and you feel how everything shifts and moves on the camera. Well, yeah, it's absolutely out there.
It's high quality.
It's high quality, yes.
In terms of build.
Build quality, looks, how everything closes, how everything switches. It's absolutely top notch.
Yeah. Okay, so we start positive.
Yeah.
Because it says Leica.
It does, yes. Well, it's like meeting your old heroes for the first time. When you we both couldn't afford a camera like this, right? So if you only saw one, you get a bit envious, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you want to know how it's like, and people are who own a camera like this. Well, it's almost a religious thing. They talked quite highly about it.
Is it religious because it's Leica, or because?
Yeah, to be honest, I think so. Yes, it's Leica makes very good cameras, but it's still just a camera,
right?
And it's still just a lens. And if you wipe out the name, then the camera stands on its own, and then you can really see what it's made of.
Right.
And for me, that didn't work out quite as well as I was hoping, to be honest. Because, well, I came across a couple of things. People who know the show and know what I take pictures of is that I like to take a camera with me with a high sensitive film, black and white P3200 of Kodak, and then underexpose it to 6400. And then with a 1.4 in your camera, you can take pictures in the evening on the streets, handheld,
right,
without a tripod. And I do it, not all the time, but I do it regularly with my Nikon F2, and it never gave me any problems whatsoever. And the light meter is faultless. And so I took this out. Man, it was a drag. As soon as a little point of light hits the light meter, it yanks that meter up. And I know from out of experience that if you take here in Haarlem, if you take pictures in the evening with only street light, you're about 1/30th of a second shot wide open, 1.4. That's normally the deal.
ISO 6400.
Yeah.
Okay.
With this camera, well, he managed to show me in the viewfinder 1/250th of a second, just because there was a lamppost in the very near corner, just visible. And as soon as you turned it out, it went down to 1/30th. So it was very sensitive for stray light.
Right.
And for evening shots, that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not very nice. So that was my first experience. Normally, if I test a camera, I let the camera go. I point the camera to a subject, and then the camera has to decide, because that's what it's made of. The camera has to decide what time and what aperture. But 1/250th of a second at night is ridiculous.
Right.
So if I didn't want to spoil a good P3200 film, these are very expensive these days, I had to interfere. And normally I don't do that, but in this time, yes, I had to. I put it on manual. And
could you say that's a fault in the light meter, or a sort of a restriction?
Well, the camera has some quirkiness. If you put it in selective mode, and you put it on A, dus aperture, then you have an automatic exposure lock. If you put it on average measurement, you don't have that lock.
Okay.
It's not working. And that was something that blew my mind. So what? So I actually read the manual to figure out.
I'm feeling bad now.
Oh no!
I didn't read the manual.
I actually read the manual, and it says in so many words that if you put it on average, you don't have an also exposure lock.
Okay.
And with an automatic camera, well, you should have.
Yeah, I agree.
In all circumstances, in all modes, in program mode, in S mode. With this one, only in selective measuring, and only in aperture. So that was the second thing I didn't like very much. The weight, if you take it, no, you complained about it too, but the weight is certainly a big deal if you keep it in your hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you wear it, okay, this is not the nicest strap. It says Leica on it, but it has no. It's almost.
It's not really comfortable.
No.
No.
It's a cheese grater. It's and that in your neck. And I shot it in winter, so I had to put my coat up and then the strap over there because otherwise it really hurts
You
your neck.
mentioned winter because I also took it out on a very cold day, and then it had less battery life. It affected the batteries.
Yeah,
when I was using the camera.
On top of that, the camera uses twice as much batteries as all the other cameras because it actually has 4 SR44 batteries in it, or two 1/3 batteries. So it functions with 6 volt inside, while if you take a Nikon FE or an FM3A, that always works on 3 volt, and as soon as you go outside, well, I never give it a single thought. And this camera, if it becomes too cold, it's very critical about the voltage. So if it drops under a certain level, it quits.
That.
Yeah, it quits. Yeah. Maybe it's the age of the camera. It's 31 years old now.
Okay, well, I'm older.
Yeah, me too. No, but that is something I really was surprised about. Not so much with how the viewfinder looks.
I thought it was a very beautiful, clear viewfinder.
Yeah, it's 1.4. I would think so.
Okay. Couldn't you have told me in advance?
But when you press the release button, it takes a while before something happens.
Yeah.
So it's not a camera to take pictures of Max Verstappen with.
No.
If the Red Bull goes past with 310 kilometers an hour, because then
you won't catch him.
No, you have Hamilton.
If he's lucky. But that's a sort of a shutter leg.
Yeah, but it's slow.
Yeah, that's something I really needed to get used to, because you have to press the shutter all the way down before something happens.
And then you feel that something is happening, but then still the picture hasn't been taken yet.
Yeah.
It is a kind of sound, and which it's pretty lovely sound, and it feels nice in the hand, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt, because what to do about the decisive moment?
Yeah.
It's not really the camera for the
I
design.
couldn't get used to it.
No, me neither.
I did like the film advance.
Yeah, it's very short.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very short.
Yeah, very smooth.
Yeah, very smooth. Yeah.
Well,
and then of course, the icing on the cake, and that's the 1.4 50mm Summilux.
The €1,200 lens.
Yeah, second hand.
Still a lot of money.
Still a lot of money,
yeah.
And there is a lot of lore about the Summilux lenses. The Noctiluxes, perhaps even more. I shot it first because there was something funny with the lens. It was stuck on 6 meters, and then it said infinity. So some bad mojo happened to the lens. I had to take it all apart and change the helicoil 3 stops, and then put it back together again. And now it is perfectly aligned on infinity. I cleaned the lens. I serviced it, and the first time I shot with it, there was in spring with a 400 speed film, so I had to stop it down really like 5.6, 8 or 11, just to test the lens if everything was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember saying to myself, and now I'm going to see that nice creamy bokeh where everybody is so fond about.
Mm-hmm.
So the next film, I took a Actar with me, 100. I put it on 1.4, and with a nice day, it topped out on 2,000 of a second. So it was just possible to shoot it wide open. First, the separation is very obvious. The sharpness full open, good, excellent, better than any lens I have. But now, the bokeh, and well, this is not my cup of tea.
It's not your bokeh.
It's not. No, I like a nice round dissolving bokeh. That's where I go off on. This one, it almost looks like a planar from Carl Zeiss. It has a very clunky bokeh with very funny things happening with lines, the double lines. If you stop it down a bit, like 2.8, then it becomes quieter and nicer and rounder. But people, this is a 1.4. You want to shoot it full open because that's what the lens is made of for. And it's not happening. For me, it's. I showed a couple of pictures to a customer of ours who's quite used working with our cameras, and he says, "Well, that's the bokeh for me." So it's a matter of taste, but it's not my camera. It's not my lens. Absolutely not.
So what we're actually saying, there's a little bit to like, and there's
well,
also
when it counts, it fails.
Yeah, and that's for a Leica.
Yeah. Yeah.
That surprised me. And you know, you're much more experienced in cameras like this than I am. So for me, it was only a joy to hold on to a Leica for the first time.
Yeah.
So I approach it totally different than you do. But you're very clear that it didn't meet your expectations.
No, it was underwhelming.
Yeah.
To be honest.
For such a camera.
For such a camera,
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't have any experience with the R cameras, but I do have some experience with the M cameras, and I shot a 35 2.0 aspherical from lights on my M3. I had it in the store, and I was just contemplating of buying it myself, but it was 2,795 euros, and it wasn't mine camera. It was of a customer. He asked me to sell it, so I took it home with me for a weekend, and I shot a roll of black and white film, across 100 speed, so that I could use it wide open. And I took it the film to the darkroom and started printing it, and well, it was very impressive.
Right.
Very good.
Yeah.
Was it better than my Nikon 35 2.0 for the f2? And then I had to declare to myself, no, it wasn't. It was the same. So it's still very good. But is that worth 2,795 euros?
Because what would you normally pay for a second-hand 35 2.0 of Nikon?
Like 175 euros, 200 euros perhaps.
That's a major difference.
Yeah, it's a major difference. So that little voice in my head said, Hans, you'd be ridiculous if you buy this lens, and if you want to have a 35 mil and shoot it wide open, and then you've got a nice Nikon in your bag. So why should you? And I still didn't have my M2 then. And then the M2, yeah, I only had the M3, and that has a 50 millimeter viewfinder. So you had to use a
separate viewfinder.
Yeah, an auxiliary viewfinder to have the good field of view. That's that thing. So I sold that, and now I have an M2. And is there a lights 35 on it? No. It's a Voigtlander. And it's a 1.7 even, and it's beautiful. And it's very cheap.
But did they make a lot of these cameras?
Well, no, I don't think so. But that's more because the camera is very expensive. I mean, Nikon didn't make very much Nikon F5 cameras because these were very expensive also. It was made for the happy few, you know.
Yeah.
And most of them wore them as an accessory, like something. Look what I have, with the big red dot and the Leica. When you were under other happy few, well, you had something to talk about, and that's most of those Leicas were used for. Of course, there were a few people that used them professionally, but I wonder if that would be so good choice for fashion, perhaps, but for news, it's too slow.
Yeah. That's what we experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, it's sort of a nice to have.
It's almost a fashion
Yeah.
fashion item.
Yeah, which is disappointing in a way.
Well, I think disappointing. Is it a good camera? Yeah, it's absolutely a good camera, but it doesn't have the thing you'd expect for a camera that costs so much money. Which is made from such a famous brand.
Yeah.
You would expect it to be flawless.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely flawed. Yeah. And the lens is absolutely flawed, in my opinion, right? Because what I find beautiful, you might hate, and vice versa. So that is my opinion. And if people at home think completely something different, well, of course. But it's not for me.
Well, you know what surprised me is that I'm always, I have this idea that you should be able to photograph with any camera.
Sure.
Cheap, build quality doesn't matter. It's about composition and light.
I like my quirky cameras, right?
Yeah, why not? And so I thought this was going to be one of those cameras, only a high-end camera, and I can photograph with it. And I was unable to get the results that I am with other cameras.
Well, this the same story as if
I don't have this link with this camera. It doesn't. I don't know.
If you buy a Fender Stratocaster that formerly owned by Jimi Hendrix, it doesn't make you a better player, right?
Do you own one?
No. No. But the camera has this mojo around it that if you now I finally have arrived. I've got an R7 with a Summilux. Now I can do anything that pops in my head and make a good image of it. That's always a tiny bit that a very expensive camera has on it. Very cheap cameras often not so much, but it doesn't live up to the expectation.
No.
It didn't.
So maybe it would have been better to call this video "No Expectations."
No expectation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of a disappointment, but I really enjoyed holding on to it for even a few months, to be honest. And
well, with the last switch, we had that ridiculous Samyang lens. Okay, it had trouble, but that was because of the focusing screens.
Yeah.
But that lens lived up to its expectations.
Absolutely.
It did, and it had a beautiful bokeh, and it was nice and crispy and sharp.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and this.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Well, so what is our bottom line? What is your bottom line?
Don't meet your heroes.
Who was your hero in the past? Famous guitar player, probably.
Famous Brian May. That's absolutely my hero. Mark Knopfler. Those, but I know that Mr. Brian May is a very kind person, so I think that Mark Knopfler also. So, but I'm never going to meet him.
No.
Why should I?
Yeah.
No, but this is a camera. Above this camera, if you have a manual focus camera like this, above this there is nothing. Because would you know a camera more expensive, better spec at the same time period?
No, you mentioned the price of this camera back in the day, and I couldn't imagine a more expensive SLR.
One big black vacuum above this, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So this was the best there is.
But it's now for
supposedly.
sale. You're selling the camera.
Yeah, I'm selling it.
Yeah. Okay, well.
It's in 100% perfect working order, but.
And it looks fantastic.
The
it's cosmetic condition is very, very.
It's very nice,
yeah.
Except for a tiny bit discoloration of the
advanced lever.
That's it.
Yeah, and it has its original box.
Double box.
Oh, sorry. Even the double box. Yeah. Well, it's been enjoyable to shoot with a Leica for the first time.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with that.
The R system I never used,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was for a first time for me too.
Do we have? Oh yeah, we do have an idea. Maybe I can just. I won't reveal what kind of camera we're going to be reviewing next time, but it's exceptional to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, it's special and it's quite old.
Yeah, so it's old and it's special.
And and it has a lot of mystery around it, and I've been studying on it, and I still don't quite understand how, but it's going to be nice.
It's going to be a very interesting video. Well, we hope you enjoyed the Leica R7 more than we did using it. But besides that, thanks Hans.
Okay, you're welcome.
For your input and
Sure.
letting me borrow the camera. And I hope you sell it quickly, maybe to one of the viewers.
It's not my camera. I had it in for repairs, and then you keep it and you sell it, and if you sell it, then I will pay for the repairs.
Yeah.
So.
And it's good to see that you have your cabinet filled again.
Yeah.
You're filling it up again. Getting more and more difficult to get second-hand equipment.
It's getting
and
more and more
in good condition. Working.
What I'm doing now is I'm buying broken cameras, repair them, and do that in my spare time. So and then I can still offer a good camera for not too much money. Because if I buy working cameras, then it's undoable.
Yeah.
Price-wise, and except for the fact that a couple of months ago, Pentax revealed that they are going to make a complete line of analog cameras again.
Mm-hmm.
Something like an automatic autofocus reflex camera, a point and shoot. And there was another thing I forget, but that one was really a surprise. They're going to make a totally mechanical single lens reflex for film.
Nice.
So they're working hard, and they have pensionados coming back from their homes to help the newbies at the Pentax plant to make those cameras again.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And as long as film stays affordable for us all, then it makes sense to bring out a new SLR.
Yeah, well, it's almost like the Monty Python thing from Don't Mention the War, don't mention the film price, because it's
just buy it.
Just buy it.
And just shoot.
Just don't look and bleep.
Yeah, press the shutter button. Don't look and press the button. Well, thanks anyway.
Okay,
I appreciate it, and hopefully faster than the past few months, we'll bring out a next video.
Okay.
Quicker. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Like and subscribe.
Bye-bye.